when I have conversations with organizations around when do you go down the path of zero-day response, I think this article does a really good job of giving a CSO online. So really this is geared at the CISO audience, but I think it's a good takeaway for all of us. When do we shift from that regular maintenance mode into, reactive zero-day response mode? It's good to have policies in place. It's good to have your products configured to be able to do this. Those of you who use our Ivanti Neurons patch solution, you know that we have a specific zero-day response task out of the box. Your policy is designed to let you enable this so that it's ready to go on a moment's notice. And all you have to do is add a specific patch. Once you decide you want to do it, you add that patch. Your policy is already configured, and it's going to go out and do that. And you can have it set up to do so on a daily basis to check and make sure any of the 0 days that you say need to be done as soon as possible, get done as soon as possible. I've talked to many organizations like yourselves, and a lot of them are starting to say they've got a 48-hour response time from the point where they say they need to, or they have decided to respond to a 0 day. They've got 48 hours to do that then. So having that configuration ready to go out of the box is step one. The second stage is, when do we decide to pull the trigger on that? And I think that this article does a really good job of talking about that. You've got a number of different vulnerabilities that a lot of people were talking about. This part here, the screaming from the hilltops, there was a lot of noise going around about several Azure vulnerabilities that Microsoft disclosed yesterday. In fact, there is really no reason to waste brain power on those right now, because Microsoft already took care of them. The 4 Azure vulnerabilities were already implemented by Microsoft. They've already been resolved. So if you're doing anything, it's more of a reading up on to understand what was exposed. If there was any reason to be concerned about it, your security team might need to know so they could go do some investigation, but there isn't any immediate action needed. So in a lot of cases, this is overhype of vulnerabilities, and it's drawing our attention away from the ones that we really need to worry about. The no emergency section down here kind of talks a little bit about this as well, talking about the different vulnerabilities that are being exploited this month. We're going to talk about these in a second here. 4 out of 5 of them, the way Microsoft describes them, and the fact that there aren't any large-scale threat actor or ransomware ties or malware ties for these, the 5 vulnerabilities that were exploited this month are pretty localized in their impact. Microsoft has to disclose it as a 0 day, even if one customer is compromised. If we don't see a large scale kind of campaign around that, there's, the fact that there's 5 0 days exploits in the OS update this month doesn't mean stop everything and go patch that immediately. We have to consider that, but we do need to weigh that consideration with other factors. If you were comparing this month's 5 CVEs to the April Patch Tuesday with 1 known exploited, 1 0-day exploit that was resolved, I would say the April 0-day was more concerning than all 5 of these together. And the reason for that is the April vulnerability was tied to a ransomware campaign that was far-reaching. It was impacting a number of organizations. That's the one I would have said pull the trigger on. In my opinion of those two months back to back here, which one of those warranted a consideration to go into full 0-day response mode? The April update, I think, absolutely would have been under consideration. This month's update, the 5 CVEs seem to be more targeted, a little bit more complicated scenarios to exploit, and would have been limited in the overall impact. We should make sure that we get them rolled out in a timely fashion, but just that's kind of I think this article does a good job of readjusting our mindset on how we look at these things and focusing on the right things instead of the overhyped things. So this is a good read. I think it's one that teaches a couple of really good lessons of in the moment, what should a CISO level decision maker be thinking about? I think there's a little bit of all of us to be able to take away from an article like this. So that's when I shared, just because I thought it did a really good job of answering a question that I do get regularly from people that I talk to.